Tired of working endless hours in Excel on unnecessary activities? What if your spreadsheet could act like a superhero and work like a tireless assistant to automate your task? That is what AI can do for you in Excel. Welcome to this masterclass on Excel Pro with AI. I am Vishal, and with this session, we're going to talk about AI in Excel. My experience with you is around 20 or more years in training and project management in Excel and data analysis. Let us start with a few things to start off before we can get into the real session. Now, in this session, we'll talk about the terminologies that AI talks about. What are the AI terminologies? AI within Excel may be a little different, so we will talk about those as well. And finally, there are some prerequisites that are required to get into this. Now, some terminologies that you may or you may not have come across. Firstly, machine learning. So what is machine learning? AI is a base for creating automation. For automation, machine has to understand what we are doing. And machine learning is a process of training your AI to understand what we are doing. So generally, when you see this large language models, which is basically ChatGPT on all, they are trained. That's a trained model. That's billions of records of data is used for training, and machine learning is used to train them. Now, the way ChatGPT or any other AI, the popular AI these days, can understand us is by natural language processing. So instead of giving it commands, previously we had to use specific commands, or we had to understand a specific language, programming language. Now, using AI, you could use your natural language. That is what natural language processing or NLP is. And then finally, now since we are talking about data, we have to understand predictive analysis. So AI could help you predict what could be the next pattern. Based on the pattern, it could predict what could be the result. And then finally, we will be talking about data automation. Now, data automation in Excel is, or any spreadsheet, is going to be the key, right? So data automation and all these are your terminologies that we can use inside Excel. Now, when we talk about AI tools within Excel, there are few tools which are inbuilt into Excel, and then there are some third-party tools, or you have to go outside of Excel to understand those things. But we are only talking about the tools which already existed in Excel for a very long time or have been introduced recently. We'll be talking about those. We'll start off with something known as a recommended pivot table. Now, what it does is it looks at your data and gives you recommendation of what could it be summarized into, what summarization can be done using the tool, right? Flash fill, again, now flash fill is a tool which was recently introduced maybe 2-3 years ago. In here, what we talk about is it can analyze your data and give you the pattern. It will recognize the pattern of what you are doing. Let's say you are joining the first name and last name together in one cell. It will identify that you are trying to join the two cells, the two text, and then it will repeat the same task again. And then there are many more things, like in fact, if you want to divide it, or if you want to extract some information from a specific column, this is what flash fill can do for you. Analyze data was again one of those specific AI-based tools which was introduced, wherein it will look at your data and start giving you analysis. Generally, it will take you a lot of time if you don't use analyze data tool. It will take a lot of time for us to understand how do you get the information from it. So sometimes you will be surprised to see what kind of an analysis it can bring about. Now, quick analysis again is when you select some data, immediately at the bottom, it will start giving you some option as to you could convert it into this chart or this conditional formatting, all those things, or some specific formulas that you want to create. Sometimes you don't even know which type of formula can be used in this. So quick analysis can come in handy. Now, Power Query is again a very powerful tool which is added into Excel to work with large amount of data And automation within Power Query is such that you can use click interface without really knowing any programming, etc. So Power Query is also kind of an AI tool inside Excel. Now then there are few new data types which are included. As soon as you let's say that there is some record of data that you put in, and you say that's an organization, that's a stock. Let's say you have some, if you say Infi, and then you say it is a stock, it will get all the information about Infi, as in what is the current rate, what is the market rate, what was the all-time high, what is all-time low. So if you if you put it as a stock. Similarly, if there is a currency, if it is a GBP, INR, and you say that the cell that you have provided is a currency, then it could give you the market rate, or what is the dollar rate, etc. Geography again. Let's say if you put in a cell Mumbai or India, and you say that's a geographical data, you will be able to get more information, maybe coordinates, or if it is a country, what is the capital, what is the population, all those things are available. So you don't have to search outside. So this is based on the new data type. Forecast sheet, again, predictive analysis. As we already spoke about, AI is all about predictive analysis. So AI sheet, if you have some data and if you want to do some prediction, if you have 5 years of sales data, and if you want to predict what could be the next 2-3 years, instead of writing the function of forecast and creating charts, your forecast sheet can directly do it for you. Now when we talk about automating repetitive tasks, in Excel we have something known as macros and also the new age scripts. The difference between macros and script we can get into detail in maybe in some other session, but in short it is a programming language using VBA or Power Automate, or you have got Office scripts that can be recorded directly. So you don't need to really understand or know how to type in a VBA environment. It can do it for you. So if you want to start learning how to create macros or automate tasks, you could use VBA macros. Now VBA macros limitation is that it is only for the desktop interface, but if you want to automate tasks online or on cloud, then that is where you have to use Office scripts. For both of them, you don't really need to know those languages, but you could just use this record button. It can understand what you are doing and and it will give you the code. It will write down the code on its own, and then if you feel you are comfortable writing the code or editing it, you could get into that a little later. And the latest introduction is Copilot. Now Copilot is again large language model based. It's an OpenAI tool. It is similar to your ChatGPT. So we will talk about it in detail when we get into it. So basically this is the latest introduction and can understand your natural language much better than any. Here in any one of these, you communicate using natural language except for analyze data and Copilot, wherein you could type in and it can understand what you are trying to do. Here analyze data was the first iteration of it. So it will have some limitation, but Copilot has got much more information and it has got much more power. But still, since Copilot is based on large language model, which is an AI terminology if I were to say, it is trained on billions of records of data. And when we talk about LLM or large language model, your ChatGPT or Bard is all trained on n number of records. So it has got, so recently you had Bard which released let's say 7B. So 7 billion records or 7 billion data points it has trained on. So all these LLMs are generally trained on text or language. But when we talk about Excel, it is more of data. So if somebody tells you that if you understand ChatGPT, you will be able to use Excel much better. Yes, to an extent, yes. But generally when we talk about data, analyzing data is a different story than analyzing text and giving you predictive what could be the next, what could be the answer. So LLMs are used to communicate with humans. So LLMs or ChatGPT are used to communicate with humans and make them feel like that somebody else, some human is talking to you. But whereas when we talk about Excel or any spreadsheet for any database, you have to talk in terms of data. So there might be some places where you will find that there are some limitation. Even if so, it's a paid software. All of the others are inbuilt, whereas Copilot you will not get it directly. So it's a paid software. It's much more expensive than entire MS Office. But when I open Excel, you will understand that even if I have bought Copilot for the entire MS Office, you will find that Copilot in Excel, only in Excel, it shows in the preview mode. Why is it? It is still training that, Copilot is getting trained on Excel or a spreadsheet environment. But if you look at Outlook or PPT or Word, since it is more language based, they are not in preview. They can do a lot of things there. So Copilot in Excel has to be, it will work on cloud much better than in a local environment. So once we get into the demo, you will understand it a little better. I'll give you a little more brief of Copilot before we get into the next part. In Copilot, you can't have your data in a normal sense. As in, if you use analyze data, you just use, you have your normal data, you select your data and you can click on analyze data and you will start analyzing. But to work with Copilot, it has to access the large language model, which is not local, which is stored on Azure, which is a cloud network of your Microsoft. So it has to reference it online. So that's why you have to be online. And secondly, it has to be in a table mode. So that is where the prerequisites comes in play. For all of these, if you don't have table, that's fine. But for Copilot, you will need table for Excel. So having online, you have to be online, you should be online. You have to buy the license of Copilot, and then there are some prerequisites. And even after that, you will find that Copilot is still learning to understand how do you go about things. But overall, this is the current scenario. As of the time that we are recording, Copilot is still in the preview mode. So let's see what we can talk about. So there are some prerequisites of understanding AI. You need to understand Excel better. You can't say that since AI is coming, I need not really understand Excel at all. A person who has never used Excel or has used Excel very rarely and has all the tools in the world may not really be at par with a person who has never used AI tools and has a proper understanding of the entire interface of Excel and knows what is where. So when we talk about AI, please understand that AI is yet to replace human intellect. When we talk about that, human intellect about some knowledge. So if you have to ask AI that I want to do this, you need to really ask the right question. If you do not ask the right question, AI will give you some made up language. Yes, there is something known as AI hallucination. So AI may give out, so like your ChatGPT or Copilot or any large language model which is trained on web data may behave like a human and try to give you answers even though they might not exist. That is known as hallucination. So you need to understand what is right and what is not. That is where humans come in play. Even if AI is going to be the mainstream in future, humans will always be there. Why is that? Because there should be a human to take blame. Yes. So if you are working in an organization and you can't get away with saying that I have created this using the best AI tools, and it has happened time and again. As soon as ChatGPT became mainstream, there are incidents. If you search it online, there was an incident in Australian government wherein somebody had used ChatGPT to come up with some data and it just made it up. And who had to take the blame? The humans. Humans got sacked. Similarly, if you talk about let's say a car or Tesla, which is an automated car, if an accident happens, humans are blamed, not the company, not the AI. So please understand that even after you would have the best AI tools in the world, if you do not understand your data, you are to be blamed. Nobody is going to come and catch the AI to do it. So in this session, we will quickly get into the interface of Excel. What tool is available where? We'll talk about some Excel fundamental exercises that we'll do, formulas and functions. So if you don't know what do you want to do with your data. At least you should have some fundamental knowledge that this is possible. If you have the terminologies right, you will understand that whether AI is giving you right answer or not. If you want a complicated formula to be understood, you could use AI. But if you really know what you want to ask, it can create it for you also, right? So formulas, functions, or in fact, when we talk about macros, you remember we spoke about recording our macros or recording our scripts better. That is, when you understand the script better, you would be able to ask AI to generate it for you. So instead of recording on your own, or maybe if there is a recorded macro or a VBA script or an Office script that was created by you by recording, you could copy paste it inside your ChatGPT or a Bard, or in this case Copilot, which will make it a little better, make it clean, or make it more human readable. All those things can be done only when you have understood that this is the right code. It's all on us humans to analyze, understand whether we are doing it right or not. If you are learning Excel, there also it can help you understand what you need to do. But for that, you need to know the fundamentals. You need to know whether you are asking the right questions, right? So we'll be talking about formulas, functions. We'll be also talking about data organization skills. So these are all the prerequisites. If you know this, then your AI capabilities will grow tremendously. Otherwise, it will be like AI is going to make you go round and round, and you may not really have the solution. As I already spoke about, that Copilot needs a table. So you will need to understand what a table is. Generally, when we use Excel, or when we have learned Excel in school, or if we have picked it up on our own, whatever we do in Excel, we feel it is all the table, but not really. Tables are a separate object, and it works in a different way. Once we have understood all this, specifically for Copilot, you need to understand that maybe Copilot is not working properly on your computer. It is not able to process this much faster. So there would be times that you would find that Copilot in Excel, as of now, so we don't know whether in future how it is going to be. As of now, it takes a little more time when you do it offline on your computer. Obviously, you are connected to the internet, but the same data, when you take it online, if you upload it to OneDrive, so it is requirement, and you open OneDrive and you do your calculations there, or if you get your Copilot to get working there, it will be much faster. So as of now, this is what our expectations are. All right, so I'm going to close this PPT. Before we close it, what do you see? Yes, AI can do what humans have been doing, but only humans can do what human beings haven't done yet. So really what it means is that you really need to know what your capabilities are and push the boundaries beyond what is expected out of you. So AI does not know what is not possible. You know this is not possible, and you have the courage to go ahead and do that. So so with that, let us jump into Excel. So I have got this file ready for me, which we will be using to demonstrate. We will talk about the terminologies first. So the interface that you see is the modern interface of Excel. This is the third generation of Excel, I would say. The second generation that we were working with had something known as menus. We don't have menus anymore. We have something known as ribbon. So this area, this entire area, this area is known as the ribbon. Now if you want to collapse the ribbon, you see here. So what does it say? Show ribbon, hide, or show full screen mode. So if I go to full screen mode, this is how it is going to look like. So ribbon is collapsed. So that's the ribbon. All the tools are available in the ribbon. Now I'm going to activate tabs only. So above your ribbon, you see file, home, insert. Previously we used to call it menus. Now it is known as tabs. So I have activated only the tabs. When I click on the home tab, the home ribbon gets activated. Insert tab, the insert ribbon gets activated, and so on. So let me choose to go with the entire ribbon. So we spoke about the first thing is the ribbon and the tabs above it. Above this area is known as a quick access toolbar. When you want to customize a quick access toolbar, you can click on this down arrow key and you see there are a few things which are already activated. Automatically save. This only works if you have stored your data online, which is on cloud. If you want to activate new, so when you click on new, it creates a new file. So you see here, this is a new file which is created. I don't want this, so let me close it from here. So these are your customization. This could come in very handy in future. So sorting, ascending, descending for data organization. So if you want to sort ascending, descending, you could activate your customization here. So the default ones are these. If you have other tools which are not showing up here, you want to add them here, you could go to more commands, and in more commands you have a list of things that you can add. Generally you will see popular commands, and these are the commands which are already there on your quick access toolbar. You could choose to go to any of the tabs, or you could choose all commands, which includes the commands which are not even there on the ribbon. So let's go to home. From the home tab, I have got so many other commands here. So let's say I want to insert something known as rename. So I have to go down, right here, rename the sheet. This is going to come in very handy. So I'm going to activate that, I'm going to add it here. Now I could also add some separators. So I could add a separator. You see the separator is got added here. Now if I want to move this, so the first three are the default ones. Rename sheet is the one that we have created. I would like to have it after it, right? So now this is my new quick access toolbar. I'm going to click OK. Let's see how it shows up. So you see the separator showing up here. Now when I click on this quick access toolbar, rename sheet. Now in this example, since I'm using a touch screen, you really don't see the power of it. But the main important part when we work with Excel is understanding Excel shortcuts or understanding keyboard very well. So if I want to use any of these tools without using mouse or without using the touch screen, I just have to use Alt. When I activate Alt, you will notice that there are some hotkeys which comes up. Now for the rename sheet, you see hotkey 5 has come up. So if I press 5, it will start renaming the sheet, and I could rename it to whatever I want to. Let me press escape. So this is about the first part wherein we talk about the interface, ribbon, tabs, quick access toolbar, customizing quick access toolbar. We could also customize our ribbon to activate our own tabs. Right now on my screen you see home is a, so file, if I go to file is not really a tab, but it is a backstage view of your data. So if I go to home and info, it gives me all the information about this file. What is the file size, what is the location, whether it is in the protected mode, who is the author, when was it created, all those things are available here. You could add categories for searching it later on. So your file is not really a tab, you don't see a file tab, but you come across the backstage view. We'll go to home tab. Home tab is where you have all your basic tools. So if you are working with Excel for the first time, you may want to just at least get familiarized with the home tab, because many tools are repeated on multiple tabs. So in this case, if you see here, there are these cells group, inserting, deleting, etc. is only available here. But if I go to edit, you see that there is this auto sum or sorting and filter. All those things are also available on some other tabs. So let's talk about auto sum. Auto sum is nothing but about calculation, and anything related to calculation should be available in your formulas tabs as well. So if I go to my formulas tab, you would find auto sum showing up here, right? And if I go back to home, there was this editing, there is this sort and filter. We have got all the tools related to sort and filter here. Sort, ascending, descending, custom sort, which is also available on your data tab. So if I go to data tab, you see all those tools, ascending, descending, etc. So same tools are available on multiple tabs. So you should master your home tab first before you jump into other tabs. So home tab, so if you think that I want to look for a tool, where should it be? So the simplest thing to do is, whether that is a basic thing to do like sorting, filtering, or copy paste, or formatting, etc., should be available on your home tab. Okay. If I want to insert an external object like a chart, it is, or a picture, etc., it is there on the insert tab. What about inserting a sheet, inserting a row, inserting a column? They are not external objects, they are objects inside the sheet. So if I want to insert a row or a column, I choose a column, I go to cells, insert, whatever. So insert cells, insert row. Since I have chosen a column, it only shows insert a column. But if I had chosen only a cell and I go to insert, you get an option. Do you want to insert a row, column, or a cell? Insert sheet as well. Similarly, you have delete rows, columns, etc., delete sheet. Format rows, columns. Since we are here, let me also talk about shortcuts. In Excel, shortcuts play a very important role. Even if you don't know AI well, if you know shortcuts well, you will be doing your jobs much faster. So instead of just depending on AI, which is good, you should also understand how to work with keyboard faster. So whenever we talk about shortcuts, you don't always have to go to Google. You don't have to depend on a PDF. You could also look at shortcuts right in the ribbon. So if you see my cursor, I have clicked inside insert, and in insert, I have got insert sheet. So let me try to take my cursor on it, hover the mouse over it. So if I hover my mouse over insert sheet, you notice that there is this small pop-up coming up. Let me go ahead and do it again. So if I click on insert sheet, if I try to magnify it a little bit, so here you will be able to see Shift and F11. Similarly, if you keep your cursor on any of these tools, for example, we will be talking about some calculations. Simple calculations are available on the home tab. If you see in the home tab, editing group, there is this sigma button. This sigma button has got some predefined formulas, or to be specific, functions. These are your basic functions: sum, average, count, max, min, and more functions are available here. So when we talk about sum, if you want to do calculation of some cells, you could use sum by using a shortcut. So if I hover my mouse over sum, you notice this area, it says sum, automatically adds up data, and it gives you the shortcut, alt plus equal to. Let's talk about a few more shortcuts. So we'll not dwell into all shortcuts, but I'll just show you the important ones. Again, in the editing group, there is this fill, and in this we have fill up, fill down. If you hover the mouse over it, you will notice the shortcut showing up here. Control D, and since I have not chosen a cell which can be filled right, so if I keep my cursor in here, and then I'm going to go to fill. Now right is available, fill right. Right now, what does fill right do? It will fill whatever is there on the right hand side. So if there is a formula, it will fill that. If there is some number, it will fill the same thing, right? So this was a little bit brief on the interface part. Let's now jump into the formulas and functions. All right, so let's jump back into our prerequisites. We have so far covered the interface, although this is the very basic interface, but this is what the interface is all about. Let's jump into some fundamental things that we have to understand about Excel. For this, we are back into our Excel. Now in this, we want to understand something known as cell references. When we want to do any calculation, for any calculations to work, you need to understand how calculations are done based on either some values or some cell references. In this case, if I want to do any calculation in column I, let me go up. So here, let's say I want to join my first name and last name together. Okay, I have to say there is one column called first name, there is one column called last name. I want to create a new column here called name. And in here, I want to refer to those two cells which has first name and last name. So this is known as cell reference. So if I go here and say equal to, and I'm going to go here, and let's choose, so my cursor, if you see my cursor is here, I'm going to say equal to B2 and, so like your plus, minus, multiplication, division operators, which helps you do mathematical calculation, ampersand helps you do your text joining. So if you want to join text, you can't use plus symbol. If you want to add numbers, you can use plus, minus to subtract, etc. But you want to join the first name and last name, you have to use the ampersand symbol. So I'm going to go here and say B2 and C2. So let us take the cursor right there. So what have we used? We have used an ampersand symbol. So again, this is very basic. If you want to concatenate, so this is known as concatenation of text. Before we get into any function, this is also another way of getting it done. So if I press enter, I get the first name and the last name together. So here we have used reference B2 and C2. So this is known as cell reference. We are referring to cell B2 and C2. But if I have B2 and C2 together, generally we don't write our name like this. We put a space in between. So how do we put a space in between? Again, a very basic concept. So please understand, when we refer to a cell, we simply go ahead and refer to, let's say A1, B2, C3, you use them. But if you want to put some text, all the text should be in inverted commas. So let me keep my cursor here, and I'm going to put inverted comma, space, inverted comma. So your space is a text, it's a non-numeric. Anything which is not a number should be in inverted commas. And then I'm going to write and again. So if I have to give you an analogy of maths, so in B2 if there is, let's say, some number, in C2 there is some number, and in between you want to add one more number. So what would you do? B2 plus that some number 1, 2, 3, whatever number, plus C2. So instead, now let's come and understand that this is a text. So we will say B2, whatever text is there in B2, we will have that. And in inverted commas, the text. If this was not non-numeric, we would have to, if it were numeric, you could just ignore inverted commas and you could put it as it is. But whereas when it is non-numeric, like a space or a text, you have to put it in quotes. We will see one more example, you will understand a little better. So what do we see? We see first name and last name together. If this was a text, if it was any text like say N. So what I have put? I put in inverted commas N and then space. I think there are two spaces now. There is only one space. Okay, great. Let's press enter. So what do you see? Surajan space Saxena. Instead, if I put space before and after N, what do you find? Suraj and Saxena, right? So this was again a very basic understanding of how non-numeric values are provided. I'll try to put I'll put a number there, so you'll understand that it is only required for. So if I have to have just let's say 0. 0 is numeric. So here I don't need to put in inverted commas. Let's see. So what do you see? Suraj, Saxena. Let us try to put space without the inverted commas. What does it give you? Let's say space or any text. Now we would generally feel that if I give a space, it should work. It gives you an error. What is the error? It says we find a typo in your formula and try to correct it. It says, do you want to have only B2 and C2? We say no, we don't want that. Now if I say okay, there is a problem, again it is going to the place where it finds the problem. Similarly, if I were to put a, so you see here, as soon as I start typing, it gives me some names. Now these names are either beginning of a formula or a cell reference or any other function. So if I just put A, it will give me a name error. Why is it a name error? Because A is not, it is not a name, it's not a valid name. Now here, since it is just a text, it is not a name, you have to put it in inverted commas. Right? Now we also need a space. If you don't put a space, this is how it is going to go. Right? So this was about your formula. Now we have referred to B2. Let me show you the formulas. Now when we get into auditing any sheet, what is the formula, what is the function written there, that is when you have to get into the formulas and you find that there is this formula auditing area. Okay, this formula auditing. This is known as a group, by the way. So I think last time when we spoke about ribbon, we did not speak about the group of tools. The names should be showing up here. So this is a function library, defined names, formula auditing. In formula auditing, there is this show formulas. So if I click on show formulas, it will expand the entire sheet and start showing you formulas wherever they are. Okay, so you see here, there is only one cell which contains a formula. That's the reason it is showing only one. Let me show you the shortcut. Now if you hover your mouse over it, like last time, so my show formulas is here. Let's hover the mouse over it. You would find that it shows a formula, says show a formula, and there is a shortcut called control plus semicolon. So if you don't know where semicolon is, sorry, not semicolon, it is apostrophe, my mistake. It is show formula is control and apostrophe. Apostrophe is below escape. So there is a key called tilde, which looks something like this. This is tilde. And with that you have show and hide formulas, the apostrophe symbol. Okay. So that's not the key that I have pressed. I have pressed this. This is your apostrophe. So generally we may miss it out. You may feel your apostrophe is also a single quote or a comma, which is, so your single quote is with your greater than symbol. So this is your comma basically, and then you have got single quote which is with your just before your enter. Okay, so we are not talking about single quote, we are not talking about a comma, but it's a apostrophe which is below escape. Okay, so that's the shortcut that it is talking about. Let me take this away as well. So when I use control and apostrophe, it shows and hides formulas. So let me do that from here. Okay, let me take it here. So if I want to copy the same formula below, you see, since I am on a touch screen, it may work a little differently. I could use my mouse and drag it down. Like so. So if using mouse, you can drag it down. What do you notice? Your B2 has become B3, B4, B5, etc. And your C2 has become C3, C4, C5. This is a different type of cell reference. It is not the same reference. It is referring to the next row, next row, next row. Here also it is referring to next row. Why is it referring to the next row? Because we copied our formula to the next row, it is referring to the next row. This is known as relative reference. This type of cell reference is known as a relative reference. If I go inside here, let me just take this away. I'm going to select this and let me delete it. Now instead of having B2, if I change the cell reference, how do I change my cell reference? I'll select the cell reference and I press F4 function key, F4. So as soon as I press F4, the cell reference which is B2 changes to $B$2. If I press F4 one more time, it is changing to $2. And let me press F4 one more time, it is going to $B2. What does it really mean? Now, instead of calling it dollar, the reference, instead of calling it $B2, let's call dollar as fix, F-I-X, fix. So let's read it again now. When I press F4, how do you read it? We are not reading it as dollar, but we are reading it as fix. So fix B, fix 2. What do you mean by that? So when I copy this cell reference anywhere, B will not change, it will remain the same, and 2 will also not change. So let's look at this. C2, we have not fixed it, we have not changed the cell reference, we have kept it relative. It means it will get changed in the direction it has been copied to. Let me just press enter. And now I'm going to use my mouse to drag it down. So what do we notice here? C2 has become C3, C4, C5, C6, but B2 has remained B2. Okay, another way, let me press Ctrl Z. So I'm going to choose this. I can use the shortcut Ctrl D, or on the home tab, and you see fill down, and you notice B2 is remaining B2, but C2 is changed to multiple areas, right? So this is known as absolute cell reference, where B and 2, which means your column B and row 2 both are fixed. Let me go ahead and change my cell reference here. I'm going to make this only row absolute, and I'm going to change this as well, F4, F4. So here how do we read it? I am fixing the B part, and here I am fixing only the 2 parts, which is the row. I am fixing the row here, I am fixing the column here. So let us go here, and I am going to choose all of them. Let's get this down. Let's choose this, and then let's fill down. The shortcut is Ctrl D. Now what do you see? You see that B does not change. Anyways, it will not change because we have not copied it to a different column, and 2 is not changing. Now let me copy this into the next column. Okay, let me choose all of these. I could actually do copy paste as well. I have chosen these 2 columns. Now let me fill right, fill down. So you could use your mouse also to drag it down and right, Ctrl R. So now let's see this, let's read it. Now your B2 is B2 here, the same, the column has not changed, but B3, B3, B4, B4. Let's talk about the second cell reference where C and 2 was there. So 2 did not change when I copied it to the next rows. In different rows, row is not changing. Why? Your row is fixed. But if you see here, what has happened? B2 is remained B2 because column B has not changed. Here C has become D because D was not fixed. C was not fixed, or C has changed to D. 2 did not change because 2 was fixed. So this is known as your cell reference. Very fundamental thing, that without knowing this, if you use any formulas or functions, you are going to do a lot of activities. Okay. So this we saw is 3 different type of cell reference. Relative, which means you have not fixed anything. There is no dollars for anything. Neither dollar for B, neither dollar for C, or 2, both row and column. Your column B and row 2 both were not fixed. How do we toggle between them? Using the function key F4. Just in case your F4 is not working directly, check if whether it is working with the function Fn key. Okay, check with that. So this is $B, $2. It means neither the column B nor the row 2 is fixed. Both are free. Second one, B is fixed. So $B and $. So fix B, fix 2, both are fixed. So this is the second type of cell reference. This is the third type of cell reference where we have fixed only the row component, the column component we have not fixed. If you notice there, now let me press F4 one more time. Now we have fixed the column. So we have fixed the column, not the row. So this is a fourth type of cell reference. First one, relative, no dollars, neither the row nor the column is fixed. Second is row absolute, absolute wherein row and column both are fixed. $B, that means column is fixed. $2, that means row is fixed. And then we fix the row component, which is row absolute, only one component. And then we fix the column, that is column absolute. So four type of cell reference. With this cell reference, we will be able to do a lot of activities, right? So let me jump into my PPT again. Let's talk about the next part. So these are fundamentals of understanding your formulas and functions. We could go into more detail of each and every tab, but we'll jump into that as and when required. Now let's talk about formulas and functions. Okay, let me hide the formulas. I'm going to choose all of these and let me clear it. So in the formulas, I'm going to go to hide my formulas, right? Let me have only a space there. And I'm going to choose all of this. Clear it. Now, when we choose any cell, at the bottom there should be a small indicator which is known as a fill handle. When I use my mouse to select it, you can see it a little better. That time you notice your mouse. So you look at this, let me make it a little bigger. So this is the fill handle that I am talking about. If you hover your mouse over it, your mouse changes a little bit. Just look at that. You see that? So right now the mouse, so there are different type of mouse cursor. So this is a selection mouse cursor. When you see this arrow, this is known as selection. But when you hover your mouse over any of these edges, okay, let me just take it here. You see four-headed arrow. Four-headed arrow, that is to move. Okay, so if you have a white mouse plus symbol, that to select. Your four-headed arrow, that is to move. So if I click and drag this, you see I have cut it and I have moved it. Let me press Ctrl Z. Ctrl Z is to undo. Now let me take my mouse cursor again back. So if I keep my cursor on any of these edges, I will find the mouse showing as four-headed arrows. But if I keep it in this fill handle, it will have a different mouse cursor. Like this. This is different mouse cursor here. Now you see a black plus symbol, that is to drag. Okay, this is used to drag, or if you double click on it, now it will fill it down up to the last record. Let me double click it down. So it will fill it down automatically till the last record. So you don't have to manually copy paste into hundreds of records. So this is again a very basic tool that you should know. Now let's talk about the difference between a formula and a function. So what, in your mind, what is a formula, what is function? Okay, before we go there, what I am trying to do is I am trying to fit the content into this column. So how do I do that? So between I and J there is this arrow that I am getting. I'm going to click on it and then drag it. Now if I am not able to do it using my touch screen, I'll have to use my mouse. I have double clicked on it and it fits in. So if you have to do it without using mouse, you can go to Home tab, Format. First for that I have to select that column, and you see auto fit row height, that's not what you want, auto fit column width. So this is what I am using. Now you can figure out the shortcut for the same using hotkeys. So let's go there, Alt. So to activate your hotkeys, if you remember, that's the first thing that we spoke about. You press Alt and you see all the hotkeys coming up. I have to go to Home tab, so there is H. And you would find that your colleagues who have been working in Excel for a very long time, they talk about some other hotkeys which are for the previous generation. So for the previous generation hotkeys, it will start showing up here that you are using accelerator keys or access keys from the previous version. So you don't really need to know what's the logic behind it. You see the logic in front of you. So on the Home tab, I press H, and then Format, I have to click on O. So Alt, H, O, and do you see Auto Fit Column Width, Alt H, O, I. So that is how you could use your shortcut to fit the screen. Well, so far we are still speaking about some fundamentals of how to work with your Excel or work with all the other things like so. So let us go to formulas and function. Right now what we used here, now you notice what has happened here. Since I have fixed B, column B, your first names have changed. You notice this, but the last name has remained the same. Why is that? Because the row is fixed. So let me go ahead and change that, F4 one more time. So I could just take that away. And then again, let me use my mouse to fill it down. So now you have got first name and last name as it is. What we used here is known as a formula. Why is it a formula? Because any calculation that we do which contains any operator. What do you mean by an operator? Something which joins two things together, either a plus, minus, multiplication, ampersand, space. There is a space operator as well. I'm not talking about this, but you use any symbol to do calculation, that is a formula. Then what is a function? So if you go to the formulas tab to do the same activity, to join the two text, you have a predefined calculation. If I go to formulas, you see there is something known as a function library, and in this function library we have text functions. We got so many functions. Let me go down there, and you will find something known as concatenate or concat right here. See, concat. So what does it? If you want to understand any function, you will see that there is this function argument dialog box coming up, and this function argument dialog box talks about what this function does. So what is the name of the function? The name of the function is concat, and it has got two arguments. So what is inside here? These are the arguments. Text1 and text2 are the names of the arguments, and I could use cell references here. So I could go here and say I want first name Suraj and second last name this. Now, but if I want a space, so instead of C2, if I click OK, you will have the same issue that we had previously, which it does not contain any space in between. So I should drag it down, fill down, home, fill. Now you could use a shortcut for doing this, down. So concat is the function, and you're using ampersand, it's a formula. So let's define the function now. Formula, as we already spoke about, is any calculation using mathematical or symbolic operators. Plus, minus, multiplication, division, ampersand, etc. are your operators. Greater than, less than are also operators, which gives you other values. So it gives you comparative values, those are comparison operators, so it will give you answer in true or false. Here, a formula is any calculation which is predefined. A predefined formula or a procedure is known as a function. Now your function here is concatenate. Your function will always start with the name of the function, in this case concatenate. followed by open and close round brackets. So if you do not have open and close round brackets, then it's just a name. Now that name could be a cell reference, a table name, or any name, defined name. Okay. So your name of the formula, or sorry, name of the function is concatenate, and after that you have two brackets. This means this is the function, and within the brackets, whatever you provide are the arguments. So we have used B2 and C2. So instead of B2 and C2 only, I could insert a space and a comma. So now instead of using two arguments, now you see I have used text1, text2 and text3 as arguments, right? So these are all the arguments. So that's your formula. Now you have got so many other functions. You've got so many other functions. The simple ones are your sum, count, average ones. And then there are some other statistical and engineering functions that you may want to use. Let's say if you want to work with conditional counting, or so you have to use countif, multiple conditions, countifs, etc. You want to do some financial calculations, compounded average, coupon rates, right? Dollars, future value, XIRR, IRR, nominal, NPER, all these are available in financial functions. So the idea behind any function is that you don't have to think about the formula behind it. So if you don't even remember what is the formula for XIRR, which is complicated, you can simply go ahead and use the XIRR functions or MIRR functions. These are new functions. So depending on the version of your software, you will have different functions. So there is a possibility you may not have MIRR or XIRR, or you may have only IRR. So right now I am using the latest version of Excel, so you will have the latest software. Now there is also this if statement. So if you want to do any logical, you want to do any logical calculation, checking whether the value is greater than certain value, then you would want to do something. So that is your if function. Okay. So there are these three arguments. You want to check whether the condition is met. If it is met, then you provide a value. If it is not met, you provide some other value. So this is your logical, and then very important, lookup and reference. You will find this very useful. If you have never used any lookup functions, you would understand that VLOOKUP is like your go-to function for a lot of activities. So where you want to look up something vertically, if you want to search something vertically, you use VLOOKUP, and based on it you get some other next column value or third column, fourth column value. You could use that. And the latest one in the lookup function is XLOOKUP. So it does not really matter whether you want to look for the value in vertical manner or the horizontal manner. You could use XLOOKUP for the same. So for right now, this is just a little introduction on lookup functions. So we'll get into the next part in some time. All right. So far we have covered the interface, Excel fundamentals, and some formulas and functions basics. Now let's jump into the next part, which is going to be about data organization. What do you mean by data organization? You have to understand that when your data is put into Excel, what are the do's and don'ts that you should take care so that your data is managed better. Let me jump back to Excel. Now let's take this example. You notice that all your data generally is vertical in manner. What do you mean by vertical? When you have any new data coming in, if it is growing in different rows, that means it's a vertically growing data. If your data, if there is a new person, so here this is data about salary. So if there is a new employee salary that you want to record, if it is you are adding in a different row, that's a vertically growing data. If you add it in a column, it is a horizontally growing data. So which is better, vertical or horizontal? Now there is no good or bad, but generally all our databases and all our systems are set for vertical storage. So if you happen to store data in a horizontal manner, then there might be some issues when you want to get into some other bigger, larger database. You will have to do something known as a transpose. What do you mean by that? It means that all your rows you make it into columns, or all your columns you make it into rows. So your first thing to notice is generally the data is stored vertically, And that's why if you go back to the formulas and functions I spoke about, we see that VLOOKUP is used more than HLOOKUP. VLOOKUP stands for lookup vertically, look for a value vertically, that is VLOOKUP, and HLOOKUP means look for a value horizontally. You would find that VLOOKUP and HLOOKUP have got the same methods of doing calculation. The only thing which is different is that VLOOKUP will search for data vertically and HLOOKUP will look for data horizontally. People will find that you will find that other people have used VLOOKUP more than HLOOKUP. They feel that HLOOKUP is something much more advanced. Nothing like that. HLOOKUP is used only when you have horizontal data, and generally you don't have horizontal data. Horizontal data is only there for maybe very rare case scenario if you want to have some attendance going in different months for the 2-3 people, so you may have that. Otherwise you would find all your database in vertical. So that's the first thing. Secondly, you should never use any blank rows or blank columns in between. So it means that if I have a continuous data starting at A1 to H101, in this case I have also put name, there should be no blank rows or columns. Absolutely no blank rows and columns. I'll tell you why. So let me go here and I'm going to insert a row between first name and last name. I'm sure you're not able to see it, but let me insert it anyways, then we will see it a little better. The idea is not to show you the data, but show you the data structure. I'm going to insert. Now what is going to happen is, let me zoom in. If you have an entirely blank column, let me try to sort my data. I'm going to keep my cursor anywhere in the first row or the first column or the second column, or in fact any other column as well, and let me sort my data. Let's say I put it in the first name. Let's just understand what is the data: Suraj, Saxena, Team C, Desai, and so on, right? You could keep your eye there. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to get into sorting. So right here on the home tab there is edit, sort. I'm going to go ahead and sort it ascending order from A to Z. So instead of Suraj, etc., it should start here in ascending order. So what happened here? Did you notice? It only sorted this data and ignored this. Let me press Ctrl Z, or I could use undo from here as well. Let me show that again. So what happened is your data only gets stored, sorted for this much, and the others don't. Now, why would you do that? Generally, people will not do such an activity, but we may forget that there is the blank column here. How would we forget? Let's say you make this very small and you want to show it as a divider. So generally, this is what you will notice if people are doing it for the first time. They will do this kind of activity. So to create a physical separation, they would feel like, all right, my important 2 columns are employee code and first name, and all the other columns I want to showcase that these are secondary columns. In that case, people will feel, since I don't really have a strong bold line there, I would like to insert a blank column, and you would find people doing it. It's very surprising, but people do it. So here you really don't find that there is any problem. As of now, there is no problem showing up. So I think that's the maximum I can do using the touch screen. So what I'm going to do is now it does not look any different, right? So I'm going to go ahead and let's say I want to sort the data based on department. I'll go here, keep my cursor anywhere here. So please understand, when we are sorting ascending or descending, the headers, it may identify, or sometimes it may also include headers inside. So we'll talk about that as well. So I'll go to home, editing. Now the same thing is also available in data. In data, you see sort ascending, descending. I'm going to sort it ascending. Now you generally don't see it because it is happening so quickly. Notice Suraj, Saxena, admin. Okay, let's press Ctrl Z and let's look at this. Undo. Now what has happened? So it has sorted only this much. This part it did not sort. So again, so first rule is sort. First rule is please have your data stored in a vertical fashion. Generally, it is advisable to do that. And second, very important thing is never have entirely blank row or blank column. let's say in this same scenario, I still want to have this. What could we do? The best thing or the minimum thing I would say to do is have something written in the header. So I'm in row 1, you see it's C1. Let me take my cursor in C1. C1, there is nothing. You see here, this is B1, this is D1, and this is C1. There is nothing. So you put some character, invalid character also is not a problem, but you put something there. So I'm just putting a single quote there, or just put some junk there. Generally, I would give it a different name, let's say blank, something like that. But if I try to do autofit, then it will fit in. So we will not do that. So you don't see any difference. But now let's do sorting again. I'm going to go here, keep my cursor in employee code. You notice that there are 2 employee codes which does not have numbers. That's fine. I'm going to sort it. So what happened to those? It went down to the bottom. Now let's press Ctrl Z. Let's do undo from here. You notice the entire thing is selected. So very important part of data organization that you should never have entirely blank row or blank column. Now in this case, if I had totally blank column, or sorry, totally blank row, it will miss that part. So let me show you here. So I'm going to insert in row 14, insert, sorry, not insert. Since it is a row, it is inside the home, insert a row. So now what's going to happen? Let me keep my cursor here. I'm going to sort my data based on hire date. So you don't notice, it ignored this part. Let's see that. Do you see what happened here? So it has only sorted this much area. Just pressing undo tells you that what was the area it chose to do that. Okay. So let me just take this away. I'm going to delete this. Right. So let's sort it again. Now, so the purpose of showing you these 2 cells as blank was the same, because if only 1 or 2 cells are blank, or at least there is something there in one of those cells, any one of those columns, so in this entire row, if there was nothing, but there is at least something, one thing is there, let me insert that again and show it to you. If I just had some text here, so generally that is known as, in database terms, that is known as a key to that row, or it is also known as the primary key. So that primary key is never blank or never empty, or even in fact, in the next stage, it is never even duplicate. So if I have employee code coming up once, you will not find it second time. So if I just put some, let's say 111 as my employee code, now let me sort my data, and in fact I'm not even choosing the employee code, I could choose anything, anyone, and let's sort it descending order. So now what happened? Everything has got sorted because at least one thing was there. So this was about your data organization part. Let me talk a little bit more of, since we spoke about sorting, the next thing to logical thing is to talk about filtering. There is multi-level sorting as well. So in sort, you have got custom sort, wherein you could do in not just one level of sorting or one column sorting, you do multiple level sorting. Why would you want to do that? Let's say I want to organize all my data based on departments, or let's go with the regions first, and then I will add one more level. I'm going to go, before I click OK, I'll show you the before and the after. Region, then in the region there would be a branch, and within the branch I would want to sort all of them by departments. Now this is the order showing up here. Order, let's take A to Z. Okay, let's look at this. Right now the data is sorted some random order. I think it was based on the hire date or the branch. Let's do this. So now what's going to happen is, firstly the entire data will be sorted on regions. So it will sort regions how? In ascending order, A to Z. And within that, branches would be sorted in ascending order A to Z. And within that, the department will be sorted in ascending order. So let's look at this region, within that branches, within that departments. Let's do this. Let's click OK. So now what do we see? we have all the east together, and east, your branches are now sorted. Just check it out. So after Patna you see Agra. Why is that? Because there is this cascading sorting which is happening, and within Calcutta, let's take any one of these. Within Calcutta, you would notice that your departments are sorted in ascending order. This is your multi-level sorted. So let me, since we are here, let me also talk about quickly one more thing. So instead of sorting in ascending or descending order, you could also have your custom sorting. Let me show that. So here, you see you could sort based on values of the cell or cell colors, font colors, etc. Or you could also order in a specific manner. Instead of A to Z, Z to A, there is something known as a custom list. Now, when you look at your custom list, you may find only a few of them. I have many more because I have added my own custom list. So, for example, I have added east, west, north, south. You notice that? How do we do that? So, if I delete it, I'll have to manually enter values here. So, east, enter west, enter north, enter south. I press add to add it here, delete to delete this. Okay, you could also have this in comma separated like you see here, but it will get stored in the same manner. Okay, I'm going to click OK. So regions are east, west, north, south. Similarly, branch also I have added. So Delhi, Chennai, Kolkata, Mumbai, but in our case, the data is showing as Calcutta. Doesn't matter. So if the data which is not here, it will get sorted in ascending order. Okay. Now departments I don't want to add, so that let that be in ascending order. So let's look at this. So east does not matter because Kolkata is not here, but let's look at west. So in west, instead of firstly after east, it is coming as west because this is not it's not in alphabetical order, but it is there in our custom order. And in west also, alphabetically Baroda should come on top, but now because we have our custom list, Mumbai is coming on top. Similarly, in north, Agra used to come on top. Now because we have our custom list, Delhi is coming on top. And lastly, in south, Bangalore alphabetically is up, but since we have added our custom list, Chennai is coming on top. Now this is going to be very important in the pivot table part as well. So what is a pivot table? When we talk about recommended pivot table, we will talk about that. Now this is about organizing your data or sorting or sorting. There is one more part to it, which is filtering. Right here, filter. So when we add our filters, let me take away this unnecessary column. This column C, this is not really liked by any databases. So it's not recommended also you put any of these kind of things. So let me take that away. Great. So what we have is a standard, a good type of data except for a few rows. So let me see what could be missing here. So for now, I'm going to just put some 101 and 102 here. So no rows or no columns should be entirely blank, and ideally your at least one identifier in that row should, like an employee code, a primary key, that what we spoke about, should be not empty. So should never be empty. So that's why I have put these. Now let's talk about sorting. Now, sorry, we have already spoken about sorting. We will speak about filtering. Now we have got a lot of data. We've got around 100 records of data. So if you see this, if I want to see how many of them, now these are the 2-3 ones which got misplaced, doesn't matter, we will take that away. I want to filter out only the ones which are in east. How do I do that? Since we have already put a filter, we can choose a filter drop down from here. Okay, let me choose it using my mouse. Right. So in here you see that you can also do sorting. You could also sort by color. You could text filter. There are multiple filters there. I'm going to go here and say I only want to select the east one. Let's click OK. So let's see what happened to others. Others got hidden. What is filter? Filter means you are showing only the rows that you want to see. Others are not seen. Within east, I only want to see, let's say, sales. So let me go here. Perfect. And I'm going to go here and choose sales. Let's click OK. So that is known as a filter. Okay. If you want to remove the filter, either you could go here and clear the filters from here. So that way we are removing filters from specific fields or columns, or you could simply go ahead and remove the entire filter, clear filter right here. Okay, so that is about your filtering. Now in filters also, there are 4 different type of data types. Sorry, we'll see the different type of data. I don't want to jump into that. We have many data types. Based on the data types, we will have different type of filters. So custom filters. So let's take salary first. So salary is nothing but okay, so we are into salary now. So in salary, you will find that we have same ascending, descending order. We have same this values to be selected, unchecked, checked or unchecked. But in number filters, you have values like equals to, greater than, less than, etc. So in here, we have got a number filter, we have got equal to, does not equal to, greater than, less than. So this is only happening if it is a numeric data type. Then other data types, let's jump into the other one. Let's take the date, the next one. In the date one, you find date filters. Here, the filters are equal to, before, after, between, tomorrow, today, yesterday, etc. Now, in this example, you notice that our data is for very old records. So, 1977 up to 1999. So, you will not get today, tomorrow, because the date year does not match. If you were having today's or current year or previous year, you should get all the other values. Let's take a few examples. For example, I want to filter out only all the values from quarter 2 or quarter 1. So here, this is where you see all dates in this period. And here, I want to pick up quarter 2. So all the values for quarter 2 are filtered. Let me take away the filter. So we saw the number and the date. Now let's talk about the text. So in this text example, I'm going to take, let's say, first name. In text filters, you have equal to, does not equal to, begins with, ends with, etc. So here, if I go to custom filter, I could show many more examples. Okay. So contains, does not contain, outside it did not have. So let's say I want to choose any name which does not contain, I don't know, A. Let's see. So there are so many records. How many records are there? How many records got filtered? So you will see here, out of 103 records, these 3 records are also accounted for. You remember I said that if there is anything inside one of the rows, it still is accounted as part of it. You see here, it is showing 19 out of 103 records selected. I'll go here and I'll delete this one. So let me delete 94 and 36 as well. Now what do we see? It is still showing 103 records. Let's clear the filter. Let's do this again. Does not contain. A. Let's read this again. So now it is saying 16 out of 100 records selected. So this was a little bit on your sorting and filtering part, which is the part where we get into the organization of data. Alright, so let's jump into the next part. With that, we have covered some basics of data organization. Let's jump into the next part, which is tables. Now these are the simple but very important part of data organization, as well as the future of what we are looking at. If you're looking at yourself as being strong with data, working with analysis or working with Excel a lot, I would recommend start using tables. So for this, let's jump into Excel again. Now you notice this is our data. Let me clear this out. Right, and this column, let me delete it. These are some filters. Let me remove the filters. So no more filter. I can keep my cursor anywhere in the data. Now the data has to be continuous. Rows and columns should not be blank. Once you keep your cursor in anywhere in this cell, in insert, you have your tables group. In that you have got pivot tables, recommended pivot tables and tables. I am talking about tables here. The shortcut for tables is Control T. Now if you see here, it gives you an interface which says create table, and it says where is the data for your table, and it has automatically selected A12 I101. In our case, I is column name. Let me cancel it and delete this to show you the power of tables. Delete this. Let me go to insert again, and I'm going to click on table, and it is giving you the same interface A12 H101, no data repeated. As soon as you convert your data into table, what do you see? Two things: colors, alternating rows, and filters come up automatically. A few things that you may not notice, that your tab, one more tab is created, table design tab. If you keep your cursor outside the table design tab does not show up. If you keep your cursor inside a table, only then your table design tab shows up. Okay, so this is what I'm talking about. This area, table. Okay, table design, right? Let me clean it up. So when you are inside a table, table design shows, outside does not show. In your table design tab, the first thing that you notice here, this area, is the table name. The table name by default shows in table 1, table 2, table 3, etc. But what is expected of you is you give table proper names, because when we refer the table outside the table, you should not have to come back to the table name to call it. So for example, I'm going to go ahead and call this table TB underscore salary. Okay, I think I will call it B. T is missing. So I'm going to call it TB underscore salary. Right? Why I call it TB underscore salary? And I would be keeping all my tables with the same prefix, so that I don't have to recall, I don't have to think of what the name was. I just have to know that all my tables start with TB underscore and whatever the name is. Now if your name here is descriptive enough, that should be good enough. Otherwise you could also give it comments, what is this whole table about, etc. So that can be done in some other session. For now, tables is what this is. Now in a table, when you are doing calculations within the same table, for example, if you remember we had done the name thing, we're going to do it here again. Now as soon as I add one value in I1, okay, let me press Ctrl Z. In immediately next row and next column, if I put anything, table absorbs it inside. So if I put something in J, it will not become part of the table, but if I put something in I, it will automatically become part of the table. So if I put something in the header in the first row, it will make it a header. If I put something in anywhere other than the header, it will add its own header. So for example, if I put some text here, okay, AD something, I press enter, table expands, but it gives you some other name, salary 1, salary 2, etc. Right? So I don't want that. I want to give it a specific name. I'm going to call it full name. Let's call it. Yeah, I thought so. I gave it too many else. I'm calling it full name. So I double click on it and it auto fits. So full name is going to be this one is going to be our calculated field. What do you mean by a calculated field? All of these are value fields, but this one we will have first name and last name as joined together, concatenated together. So for your tables, you could write your formula anywhere in the field, and the same formula will get applied to the entire field. That is what a calculated field is all about. Okay. So we can do the same thing, but now this time we are going to refer to the table's reference. I'm going to say equal to, let me go here and I'm going to go here and say, which row am I? I'm on the 10th row. So if I use Shaheen, what do you see here? It says @ first name. That is why table is a little different. You need to understand that. So what do you see? Instead of cell references, it has started showing you table reference. @ here represents current row. If @ is not there, if it is just first name, it would mean that you are referring to the entire field. In this case, it does not make sense to have entire field value in one cell, right? So I'm going to go here and say ampersand, the same thing, in inverted comma space, inverted comma close. I think I did too many. And again, ampersand again. And the last name. So let's take the last name. So you notice first name, I'm going to choose the last name. Let's click here. What do you see? You see that since it is a table and we did calculation in any one cell, it applied the same formula across the entire field. Now if you were to see, let me press escape. If you were to see the formulas, so in formulas tab, you see show formulas, same formula is applied everywhere, and you would realize that why is table name so you will realize that since we have the same field name, you don't really need to fix anything, right? Like in our cell references, we had to put dollars for rows, columns, etc. Here you don't need to. Why? Because here there is table reference. Now these table reference are going to get continued if you are getting into Power BI, Power Query, Power Pivot, anything apart from beyond Excel in tables. This is the way things are going to work. In Power BI, Power Pivot, Power Query, rows and columns does not exist. What exists is table. So you can't really go to one cell and start typing. Perfect. So that is why we need tables, not just for Excel, but for AI, which is Copilot, Microsoft Copilot. It understands only tables. It does not understand row, columns, etc. With that, let's understand the very fundamental understanding of Excel online. It's not really very different, but just a view would be sufficient. So this is office.com, and on this you have your Excel. Let us go here, open Excel. Let me start with a blank workbook. It essentially is the same. You don't see much difference, but Copilot works much faster here. Let me see if we can see some insert tab. Now here the best part is you don't really need to save. It is like your Google Sheets. In Google Sheets you don't have to save. Similarly here also you don't need to save. You just save you give the name and it is auto save. You can have your version history also showing up here. The reason I'm talking about online Excel is because the Copilot part, which is right now we are not going to dwell on it much, it works here much faster. Okay. Since I spoke about Copilot, let me just open it up for a few things. So you see it is showing Copilot preview mode. I have the Copilot on my Excel as well, but here you will find it is much faster. All of these are not working. Now here it is giving me an example. You see, so what does it say? The first thing that it says is start Excel with an Excel table. Start with an Excel table. So I'm going to take an example. It has created an example for me. Let me go full screen mode. Now this is where we start with our AI journey. I'm not going to dwell on Copilot much, but you understand here what you can do. You can create formulas. Let me just click on create, and it gives you some certain example. Okay. Add a column that combines total users target, and it has created one for you. Okay, here. Okay. So it says add a column that combines total user targeted, and let's see. I'm going to do it here. So when I click on it, let's see. So it had given me a suggestion. I did not want to type it out. So let's see what it is doing. So it is automatically giving you suggestion as to what can be done, and you could also give it like you talk to somebody, it can do it for you. You see, it is giving you the formula and it gives you all the details. You don't have to get into the thought process of what to be done, what is not to be done. I simply say insert the column and you see it gives you the detail. So that is the power of a table, and online it works much faster. So with that, we will jump into the other part. Alright, so this is a little bit on Copilot. Now, as we already know, we have used online Excel. Let us jump into what Excel has for us, and without Copilot, because Copilot is a paid software and it is in preview still, it is doing many more things. So you will be in for a surprise maybe in a year or so, wherein Copilot will be in full-fledged mode. But for now, this is what Copilot is all about. Let us jump into our Excel back. So we have taken care of all our prerequisites. What I'm going to do is, I'm going to jump into our AI, wherein we have already seen what Copilot can do. I mean, briefly. Let's talk about all of these simply, where it is, what it does. We are not going to spend more time on it because everything can take a lot of efforts and time. So we'll start with the recommended pivot table. What it does is, it gives you recommendation about how your pivot should be created. Pivot table, in short, is a dynamic table which can do summaries for you. So I have come back to my salary sheet, and in formulas, I'm going to hide my formulas. It is recommended that you use tables for pivot table, because when you do that, the base data for your pivot table is dynamic. It means that in future, if the data increases, the pivot table, you don't have to change the data source. So I'm going to go here and use recommended pivot table, and as soon as I click on it, it gives me multiple choices. What it means is, I don't really have to think of what I have to do. So if you need a little push as to what all pivot tables can be created, you can do it easily. So what do you see here? So you see that if I want to simply summarize all the region-wise salary, I can do it here. You see, so many different things. So many things that we can do. So this is one feature, which is your pivot, recommended pivot table. I'm going to pick up one of them. Click OK. It creates this immediately. So that is your recommended pivot table. Now, flash fill is going to be very important, because it's going to take away a lot of pain from what you are doing in analysis per se. So let's take flash fill example. Now in this example, we don't need tables. For flash fill, we don't need tables. So what I'm going to do is, I'm going to take up another sheet, or in fact, let me show you one more thing. If you have a table, how do you convert it back to a normal range? So this is your table. In table design, convert to range. So when you convert it back to range, it is no more a table. It does not have the features of the table. It will convert everything you see here into cell references. Okay, so let me go back here. Now the same thing that we were using formulas to do it, let me take that away. I'm going to delete this. Let's see how can we use one example wherein I'm going to use formulas. Instead of formulas, I'm going to use flash fill. So let me just go here, let me zoom in. And for this, I will have to turn around, and I could have my header anyways, so I could just call it name. Let me take the first name, Suraj and Saxena. Okay. All right, Suraj Saxena. So there is no formula in here. Now if I keep my cursor here, in data tab, there is this flash fill. When I click on this flash fill, you notice that it has automatically done this for us. So I don't have to know concatenation. I don't need to know ampersand. I don't even need to know any other function. It has done this for me. But does it always give you concatenation? You could do many more things. So for example, you could create, let's say, an email ID wherein you need your last name and the first name joined together @ some email ID. Okay, let me take that. And also show as to where will it not work. So if I have my data till column H and I leave my column I and then try to do it here, I could have done the name here as well, but let me go with email. So if you happen to leave your one column blank and then you try to do it here, let's say Suraj. I'm just calling it Suraj Saxena sommail.in. Would press enter, and then if I try to use flash fill, it will give you this error. It says, we looked at all the data next to your selection. Next to your selection, there is no data, and did not see any pattern for filling the values. So understand, AI means pattern recognition and replication. Since it is not able to identify any patterns, it is not able to replicate it. So let's take this away. Now let's try this again. So in our data, we have flash fill and it was able to do it. Just check it out. Right? So this is what your flash fill does. And you see, do you want to undo flash fill, accept suggestions? Now, flash fill may need more than one suggestions. Like that is what training your data is. Here, I don't really see anything. Maybe somewhere down, you see here, right here, you see k dot space Sita. Now, I need to train that if there is any space, if there is any dot, please don't include that. But will it understand? It may not understand. So, let's see if there is anything else. Now you see, J. So those kind of things, you have to train it. If it gets many more examples like so, it will not repeat the same mistake. But again, AI is not an exact science. Please remember that. Even if you use ChatGPT or anything, it will always tell you that it may give you wrong results. So this also is in that same fraternity. Okay, so that was about your flash fill. Analyze data. Let's take the same data and see what analysis can be done. So I can keep my cursor anywhere in the data. On the home tab, you see here add-ins. Just besides add-ins, you have analyze data. As soon as I start analyzing the data, it started giving you some values. So let me go ahead and expand this. So it has started analyzing and giving you more information as to what can be done with this. You see, it says you could create a pivot table out of it, which says salary by branch. You can insert that pivot table. Now, if you see this chart, this is an amazing chart. If you were able to manually do it, you will not be able to do it. Okay, you can't really get to this because this is, it is highlighting a certain value. This is not a ready-made tool. This is not a ready-made chart. If you go to insert chart, you don't find this chart. Okay, here also, you see, it is highlighting one of the highest one. This is the power of analysis. Okay, in fact, you could also give it some prompt like what we used to do it in Copilot. You see this here, that's the prompt. Let's say top email ID or average salary by email ID column. I could type in here, but since we don't really want to get into that, but similar thing like Copilot, but Copilot is a paid version. Analyze data is inbuilt. Here you don't even need to upload the data online. It is trying to get, so if I disconnect my Wi-Fi and I try to do it, it may not work. So this is requiring data models which are stored online, but your data is not going out there. So that's very important, that when you are dealing with any AI, please remember that you are at certain level sharing your data outside. So you don't really have to worry about it much because anyways we are doing a lot of sharing of data, but this could be very important for some organization wherein they would want to keep their data on premise. For that you may have to do some major data science activities in your office itself. Okay, so this is about your analyze data, quick analysis. Now, quick analysis again is similar to what we just saw. Now, this is not a table, great. Let me take this away. If I choose some data, okay, let me choose a smaller amount of data. Okay, this is my smaller data, and I'm going to choose this much area. As soon as I leave it, I see there is this symbol called quick analysis. And when I click on it, it gives me a lot of information as to you could do these kind of formattings, some conditional formatting, let's say color scale, automatically it did that. Okay, let me go ahead and do that. Maybe I want a chart. So it gives you some specific charts. Let me take a pie chart. Okay, since the data was only selected for so much, that's why it is giving you. Let me undo that. Okay, let me go with a chart. Let me take a pie chart. So you see, without getting into much more, any more tabs, I could do analysis here. That's why it is known as quick analysis. Power Query. It's a very powerful tool which is used to analyze large amount of data. We will not be able to get into the details of it. You could spend days into it. If you go ahead and see, you will find that there are books on Power Query. Okay, only one aspect of Power Query, there are books. So I'll just show you where it is and how it works. Let me go back to my Excel. Let me take this data. So let's look at Power Query. I'm kept my cursor in this data, and I'm going to go to data tab, and this is where you have get and transform. In get and transform, you get data. You see there are so many other options that you can get your data from. If you want to insert data from multiple sources, combine it, all this is done using Power Query. So if I choose launch Power Query, looks like it is launching it somewhere. Okay. So this is what your Power Query looks like. Now here you notice that on this side you have got queries. Since we have not loaded our data, I just wanted to show you the interface. This is where you find all the connections and queries showing up here. You can do a lot of things here. You could remove data, rows, columns, split rows, split columns, group by. If you see in the transform tab, you got so many different type of transformation happening, add column. And it is a totally different ball game here. You don't really work with rows, columns, cells, but we work with tables. So it has to be, it converts the data automatically into table. So let me come out of this. Let me show you one example. So I'm going to load this same data, this data from file and from this Excel workbook. Sorry. I would load it from the same table right here. You might see this is the table. So what it is doing is, the first thing it is doing is converting your data into a table. I'm going to click OK, and now it has loaded it. It will start showing up here. Now that's your table. This is the data for your table, and these are the different things that are already done in this table. So let me do a few things here, you will understand a little better. So for example, I want to only filter out records for East. So I'll go here in region and I'll choose East. Why is this important? Now Power Query is also known as an ETL tool, which stands for extract, transform and load. So it is extracting information from third party. Let's say you are connecting to a large database, out of which you want to only pull out few information only for East. So this is what you do. Before it loads into Excel, it does all the calculation. So it does all the calculation outside of Excel, right? And once whatever calculations you are doing, or whatever steps that you are doing, it is part of automation. Please remember that. These are the steps which are applied to it. Once you have done all these steps, you could close and load. So you will see in file, there is close and load. There is an option called close and load and close and load to. So I have chosen close and load to, and it gives me this information. It says, where do you want to load it? Do you want to load it to a table? Do you want to create a pivot table? Do you want to create a chart? Or do you want to add it to something known as a data model? Now data model is where you get into Power Pivot. We are not getting into that right now. But let me say I want to just have it in a pivot table, and I want to create it in a new worksheet. So you notice on the left hand side, you will get your 20 records of that table. It may have thousands or millions of records. You're only getting 20. When do you use Power Query? You use Power Query when you got large amount of data, you want to do calculation outside Excel, right? And then you create whatever your pivot table is. You want to have summary by each, let's say, branch. Okay, so this is a little bit introduction on Power Query. So without really getting into any programming, you could do transformation techniques using Power Query. So we are done with the first aspect of your AI tools. We will now talk about the data types, forecast sheet and recording. For data types, I'm going to take a new sheet. Let's take a blank sheet maybe. Insert a sheet. And in here, I'm going to call it, let's say, all right. So if you see in this example, I have created a field called country and I put some data. This is not a table, nothing yet. So if I go to my data, and here in data types I say that this is a geography. You see, as soon as I say it's a geography, it starts giving you this kind of a symbol, and then you have tabular data. What do you want of it? So maybe I want to have the calling code, or I want to have the birth rate, or I would like to see the area. Okay, so now I put this, I could put the headers. Now let me just choose, let's say USA. Okay, let me have this as a geography. Again, same thing, area, calling code, area. Now, if this was a table, it would have done a little better job, and so on, right? Birth rate, etc. Since this is not a table, I could do whatever I want. So this is about your data type. Let me choose one more. I'm going to go ahead and choose this. I'm going to call it a stock. It is not able to identify. So if I click on this, and it is trying to see where it is, what is it? So it is not understanding from which stock exchange. Okay, so Mexican stock exchange and so on. So national stock exchange is what I want. I'm going to select this. So as soon as I select this, what all do I get? I get 52 week high. Let me just make it a little bigger. A 52 week low. If you can understand how important this is, you don't really need to get to online and get your details. Now this is refreshable. You can refresh it as and when you want. Okay, although it's not showing here, I'll just refresh. So maybe you see right now it started refreshing. So this is about your different data type. We could have taken currency, organization, etc. Now let's look at a forecast sheet. For the forecast sheet, I'm going to choose again my data. Let me take a blank sheet again. I'm going to insert some data. ये आपको कट करना तो कर देना, मैं पूरा भरते हुए. Okay, so we have some data, we have got some years, and you got sales data for the same. If you want to forecast what could be the future, how does it look like? For this, we'll keep the cursor in the data, we'll go to data, and you see there is this forecast sheet. So forecast sheet is available in the forecast section, forecast sheet, and it gives you a forecast as to what it looks like. Since there is no clear trend, it was a random data. And you see the forecast is going up to 2009. I could choose to show how many ever years I want. So it will show you a chart like this, and it creates a table and forecast sheet. So you don't really need to take pains to create forecast on your own. So this was about your forecast. Finally, the most interesting and intriguing part of any data analysis is programming inside Excel. So we'll be dealing with some little bit of programming using VBA. We will not look at app scripts or Java or Office scripts. We will be only looking at this. So Automate tab is where you see this is for online Excel. So you could do record, and then whatever you do here, whatever you do in this sheet gets recorded. Okay. So if I click on start editing, etc., it does that. I don't want to get into that. But what I want to get into is developer. In developer, so this is the most prominent one, and this is the most used so far in the industry, VBA macros. So how do you start creating VBA macros? It's by just recording, right? So if you don't have the developer tab, you have to go to your file, options, advanced, customize ribbon, and in customize ribbon you have your developer. So that is where you activate it from. I have already activated it. In the developer tab, you have got record macro. When I click on record macro, it gives you this dialog box. It gives you saying there's record macro, what is the name of the macro, where do you want to store it. And once I have said OK, now you notice that here it is saying stop recording. Here also there is this symbol called stop recording. I have stopped the recording. If I see the macro, it's right here. So if I click on it, edit, so it should open in a VBA dialog box. Since I am using two screens, the VBA dialog box has come here. So right here, so let me have the recorded macro showing up here. So this is your VBA dialog box, this is the module. Since we did not do anything, it is showing you this. While this is on, I'm going to show you how the recording is going on. You don't know anything about VBA, that's okay. Our recording will tell you what code is it. So you don't need to know the program. Alright, so let's do this. So I'm going to start recording again. Start recording, macro 1. Now this is macro 2. I'm going to click on macro. Now you notice that there is this macro 2 coming up. Let me collapse this. This is your macro 2. If I do anything inside my Excel sheet, for example, if I jump to EMP info, what does it say? Sheets EMP info.select. Now if I insert some values in this cell, if I go here and say equal to VLOOKUP, and then I choose the employee code from if you remember we had a table. I don't know whether we have kept the table. We have not kept the table. That's fine. I'll go ahead and choose my table or data set. The salary sheet, and I'm choosing this data from first name to last name. आपको थोड़ा एडिट करना पड़ेगा. So I'm come to my salary sheet, and in here I'm choosing the entire sheet, and from there, now you notice until I press enter, this is not going to go ahead. As soon as I press enter, what do you see? You see that in this cell I have written this formula. So next time if I want to repeat the same activity, let me stop the recording. I'm going to delete this cell value. I'll keep my cursor here. So even if my sheet is validation selected, I'm going to choose this cell, or there is a multiple ways of triggering this macro. to keep my cursor here. I'm going to click on this, and you notice the same value is showing up here. So if the numbers change here, let's say this is 45. Let me delete this. Please remember the data is deleted. And I'm going to choose this. Let me close this recording. Let me keep my cursor here. You see in macros as well, I have got macro 2. This is my macro 2 and I'm going to run it. So this is how you have recorded your macro without knowing head or tail about this code. So that is about your macro recording, and we've already seen Copilot. And with that, I thank you everyone. I hope you had a good learning. There is much more to learn. As you can see, we have been struggling to compact a lot of things in this much time. So please feel free to get in touch with us and we'll take it up from there. Thank you. Bye-bye.